showing our inside and light so bright. We are awakened, come and join our love.
And now a word from our Awakened Radio sponsors. Do you have health and medical problems the regular medical system cannot seem to figure out how to fix? If the answer is yes, then check out RifeEnergyMedicine.com. That is Rife, spelled R-I-F-E, RifeEnergyMedicine.com, for a new way to approach many of your health problems. RifeEnergyMedicine.com. Check out Thrival with DonnaDevane.com. Find out all about the author, radio show host, life teacher, and coach Donna Devane at thrivalwithdonnadevane.com. Be sure and check out her new Kindle books at Amazon.com. Awakened Radio is also brought to you by the Awakened Store right here at awakendradio.net/Awakened Store, where you can find handcrafted jewelry, Native American dream catchers, smudge kits, medicine bags, hair feathers, books, audio guided meditations, and a whole lot more. Check us out at awakendradio.net/Awakened Store. Connect with the Awakened Radio host on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Awakened Radio. We love hearing from our listeners. Take part in our fan page and share it with your friends. Let's have fun on the Awakened Radio Facebook fan page, facebook.com/.
Welcome. You are now tuned in to Your Unfolding Senses on Awakened Radio. I'm your host, Ragozzine. This show is all about opening to and listening to your full intuitive capabilities. I offer tips and techniques such as meditation, dream work, and more for relaxing and connecting to your intuition. I'm on the air Thursday at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. This show is brought to you by intuitionbyrob.net, helping you to connect to your own inner wisdom. Please enjoy the show and invite your friends. Hello, welcome. It's 10 p.m., October 10th, 2013. I'm Rob Ragozzine. You're listening to a special edition tonight of Your Unfolding Senses. We'll have a guest on tonight, Debra Cohen, who is actively involved with various GMO awareness groups in Connecticut, including GMO Free Connecticut and the Occupy movement. She realized that having her voice heard was important, and she wants to help others realize that they can be heard as well. So please join me in welcoming Debra Cohen to Awaken Radio this evening. Debra, how are you?
I'm fine. It's nice to be talking to you again, Rob.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on the show. This is an important topic. We'll get to it in a moment, but please join us in the chat room here at Awaken Radio by coming to awakendradio.net and clicking on the live chat tab, and you can join us on the air by adding Awaken Radio to your Skype or dialing 334-649-7204 if you have a question for Debra tonight. Now, let's catch up since you were last on in June. What's happened in Connecticut and around the nation? Some of the specific topics that are pretty important are the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the March Against Monsanto that's coming up on Saturday.
Well, you've hit on just about all of it. We've been very busy, and a lot has actually happened since last May. As you'll recall, last May we had a March Against Monsanto. It was a global event, and we had one here, right here in Hartford, Connecticut, which was very successful. We had about 250 people show up for that. And then a little bit later into the summer, GMO-free Connecticut was very active, and we were able to get a labeling bill passed here in Connecticut. Now, on the surface, at the very beginning, that sounds like great news. We've got it made. Everything is done. But there are several conditions to the passage of that bill that I'd like to tell you about because we don't have anything in place quite yet. The conditions that were attached to the bill here in Connecticut say that we need 5 other states to sign on to have the same kind of bill passed in their locations. At least one of those 5 states need to be contiguous to the Connecticut border, and there needs to be an overall population of at least 20 million people within the states that sign on. So that leads us to realize that there's still a lot of work to do in all of the other states near us, and supporting them however we can for them to get their labeling bills passed.
Now, didn't Hawaii just pass a bill? I know that's not nearby, but...
Yes. I'm not sure whether Hawaii's bill is active or in the same sort of condition that the Connecticut bill is right now. But Hawaii they've just been absolutely fierce in their battle, and they have made a lot of progress. I will actually need to look up the status of their bill when you and I are finished.
Now, are there, besides the march against Monsanto on Saturday, are there any other events that are happening right now that we need to know about?
Yes, actually, you mentioned in your introduction the issue of the TPP, and I can explain that briefly in a moment. But a week from this Saturday, when we're doing the second march in Hartford against Monsanto, there will be a TPP protest in Hartford. I believe it's going to be across the street from John Marsden's office, asking him to take a responsible stand on the TPP and fast track. That information will be posted on Activate Connecticut's Facebook page, so I can share the details about that a little bit later on.
Okay. Now, to get down to the brass tacks, shall we say, what's a good source? Well, let's talk about what the TPP means. It's the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Yes.
And basically, I know this phrase has been used, probably overused, but people are referring to it as NAFTA on steroids. This would be an agreement between the United States and several countries on the Pacific Rim that would bind us into an agreement that would have ramifications on our trade, our banking, our label laws for food, as well as labor conditions. There's so much to know about it. The problem is that a lot of the real details within the agreement are being kept secret, not only from the general American public, but also from members of Congress. It's a very secretive deal, which is what really bothers us the most. And the fast-track component of this is President Obama's request to be able to enter into certain portions of this agreement ahead of any major input on the part of Congress. That's one of the things that we are really fighting against. We want this to be as transparent as possible, and that means allowing more time and many more people to be in on what is in the agreement.
Now, is there any worry or concern that they just might do something during the shutdown?
I haven't seen very much discussion about that. To my knowledge, that's not an immediate worry, but with the way things are going, Rob, you can't count on very much. So I don't have an immediate answer for you on that, but I have not heard about that at this point.
Okay. Now let's talk about how we might prepare for the march.
Oh, I'd be very happy to tell you about that.
I was at the one in May, and it was, as you say, very family-friendly. I think the stats were that there were 20 strollers with babies.
Right.
About 250 people in Connecticut on a cold, wet, rainy day.
Well, this time around, we're planning to follow the same route that we did last May. We'll be gathering at the band shell in Bushnell Park in Hartford. And when people arrive, we'll have some materials available, so if they'd like to make posters, we'll have the materials available to do that. We'll also be handing out information with chants that we would like to do during the march so that everybody will be in on the choices. And we'll also be passing out some information about the best ways for people to keep this march really family-friendly. We did not need a permit. We went through the process of informing Hartford Police that we were going to be doing this. We established that legally we do not need a permit for that, but it also means that we will not be able to actually be in the streets. We're going to have to stay on the sidewalk the way we did the last time. And we can't have any sound amplification, which means that all of the speaking we want to do will need to do with our voices. We won't have a sound system or bullhorns.
Now, is this the case everywhere?
I'm not sure. Do you mean in other cities?
Yes.
I'm not sure what the ordinances are in other cities. I would imagine that each city has its own rules. And each city, quite honestly, has its own group of people. And I'm sure in some places there are people who might say, well, we're going to do it our way regardless. But we really put a lot of effort into making this family-friendly and legal.
Okay. So people will come and tell them not to bring any kind of bullhorn or things of that nature.
Right. We've actually posted that on the Activate CT Facebook page.
Okay. Now, let's talk about GMOs, because people are sort of misinformed about what it is. They think it's the same thing we've been doing for years and years.
Right. It's very often confused with hybridization, and it's absolutely not the same thing. GMOs, genetically modified organisms, are the result of taking the DNA from bacteria and viruses that are generally found in the soil and implanting that DNA into certain crop seeds. Corn, soy, sugar beets, which are used in a lot of products instead of the sugar that people think that they're getting. The problem with the GMOs is that there are no long-term studies telling us that they are safe health-wise. Just the opposite. Some of the studies that we have seen come out are telling us that we could be looking at an increase in all kinds of autoimmune diseases and cancer and autism. And I realize that sounds like a really broad statement, but I, for one, am really concerned when there are not long-term studies telling me that these things are not connected. The other thing, if I may, is the damage that GMOs can cause to the very soil in which the plants are growing. GMO crops need the herbicide called Roundup. Roundup is made by Monsanto, the very company that makes the GMO seeds. Monsanto would like us to believe that you really don't need all that much of that Roundup, and every year your yield will get larger and larger. In essence, the truth is that every year you need more and more Roundup. So we're getting plants that are becoming resistant to the herbicide, and the earth that they're growing in getting more and more of it on an annual basis. It's really it's a poison. It's truly a poison. So that's the concern from the standpoint of what we're eating and what we're doing to the ground. Although I shouldn't say we. I mean Monsanto.
And just to reiterate, the date for the next march is October 12th.
Yes, that's this coming Saturday at 2 o'clock.
And you can find information pretty much on Facebook if you just type in March Against Monsanto or World Food Day, and you'll be able to find, hopefully, an event near you.
Yes, absolutely. If you go to March Against Monsanto, the main event page, you can find events in any of the cities that are holding them, and I really do encourage people, regardless of where they are and listening to this, to check out an event near them.
And just go and look for the pictures from the last events, and they were packed. And
absolutely. There are actually a lot of pictures online from all over the world from the last event.
Right.
And it's quite special to look back on that and realize that we were all part of it.
That makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
Now, I had some statistics here for the genetically modified foods. It says over 90% of the canola oil is genetically engineered. 90% of the cotton in the United States is genetically modified.
Yes.
94% of all soybeans are, and this is in the U.S., and 88% of U.S. corn. And I believe that's from the GMO-free page.
Yeah, the majority of anything that you buy in terms of processed food in this country is most likely to be contaminated, and I don't use that word lightly. I really do think of it as contamination. And also when you go to a farm stand, you can't always assume that what you're buying fresh off the farm is GMO free. You really need to ask the right questions. You really need to look into it and get some assurance from the farmer who's selling it to you that he or she has not used GMO seeds.
Now, if people want to buy their own seeds, where can they go? I was doing some research and I found Seeds Now, Botanical Interests, and Bountiful Gardens.
There are just a great assortment of companies, that you can go to for heirloom seeds and non-GMO seeds. I am very lucky to live half a block away from Comstock Ferry in Wethersfield, Connecticut, which is owned by, remind me. I'm blanking out. Oh,
That's
Baker
okay.
Creek. They're owned by Baker Creek. And if you go online and again Google, heirloom seeds, GMO-free seeds, there are many, many posts coming out more and more often with the names of companies that you can go to.
Now, it's not just Monsanto that's the problem here. There are other companies, too, but
Right.
just one of the biggest.
Right. Dow is in there. Cargill is in there. But you're right. Monsanto is the biggest. Monsanto is making the largest financial contribution to the folks in government who are making the decisions about labeling and whether or not GMOs are safe to begin with. Hence, they're being our main target.
Now, what can we do when we go to the grocery store? And we've talked about this before, and there are apps, and I'm not sure which ones work and which ones don't actually work.
Actually, I went shopping yesterday, and for the first time I really used my Buycott app on my iPhone. It's Buycott, and I was amazed at how well it worked. You need to follow the prompts when you set up your app on your phone, and you need to tell the app what sorts of things you want to avoid. And then when you go to scan the barcodes on certain products, it will tell you whether or not that product is coming to you from a company that is safe in terms of the things you've told the app you don't want to buy.
And obviously the packaged foods are likely not a good choice.
Most packaged foods aren't. I'm really happy. I'm sort of looking at a big improvement in terms of what's available in packaged foods lately. I think more and more products are coming out with either a non-GMO label or an organic label. The problem with the organic label is that very often it's somewhat more expensive, which makes it less available to a lot of people, and that's something I think we really need to work on.
Now, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news about the lab-grown meat, but what do you think about that?
Isn't that just creepy?
It's very creepy.
I don't know. It's creepy to the point where I haven't even given much thought to it, because there's no way that I would buy into that at this point. Some things simply are not natural.
Not natural. They have to add food coloring to it. It's crunchy, so I don't get it.
Right.
Now, I was reading also that they're giving the Nobel Prize for Agriculture to Monsanto. So that seems to send the message that, hey, they're an okay company. They're doing wonders for us.
Well, let's take a step back and let's find out why Monsanto is so important. I mentioned earlier Monsanto's mega dollars that they're pouring in. Monsanto's former employees are in a lot of the key positions in the departments of our government that are making decisions about GMOs. We talked about this the last time I was on. Michael Taylor, who heads up the FDA, is a former employee, I believe attorney, for Monsanto. And the list goes on and on and on and on.
There's like 30 plus overlapping positions,
yes,
at least.
Right.
Thomas, Donald Rumsfeld, we're all in there.
Right. So there's money coming in and there's influence coming in, and it's not just a question of Monsanto pouring money into our government departments and officials. They're doing this worldwide. They are fighting the constant battle on a global basis. Many countries are saying, no, we won't let you in. And they're spending all of this money in those countries that are resistant, trying to get a global hold on our food. And it's just so distressing.
Now, even worse than the grocery stores, the school cafeterias.
Mm-hmm.
How can you help your children, I guess, be aware of the pink slime and the chicken nuggets and all of that?
Well, the very first thing that you can do is start sending your child to school with their own lunch from home. That's assuming you're buying things that are more responsible. I was recently at a meeting in Colchester, Connecticut, and there is a movement there. It's actually the students from the student body. A group of them are getting together, and they're doing the research on GMOs, hopefully to go back to the school board sometime in December to give them evidence about why they would like to see a GMO-free cafeteria, or at least a list of GMO-free choices. So that thought is catching on, and there are parents in several communities, and I would hope across the country, that are getting on this particular bandwagon and really starting to talk to the school cafeterias.
I was watching, I think it was Jamie Oliver a while ago, and he was trying to change some of the schools in the LA area and have them raise their own gardens and cook their own food.
Right. Right. Well, I think a lot of his effort isn't even necessarily getting them on a non-GMO diet. He's trying to get kids across the country just on a healthier diet.
Just on a healthier diet. Yeah,
and even that is just a monumental task. Getting vegetables, getting fruits, getting the trans fats out of their diet. So it's a giant job.
So I'm a new family, a young family. We don't have a lot of money, and we want to make changes to our diet. How would you tell someone to do that?
If you have any space on your property to plant seeds and grow some of your own food, that's a wonderful way to get started. You can shop at farmers markets where more and more of the vendors who are coming on a weekly basis are offering organic or non-GMO food. And there are alternatives out there. One of the things that we talked about the last time was how I had gone through all of the food in my cabinet, determined whether or not it was a GMO product, and if it was, decided not to buy it anymore, and specifically looked for alternatives to that. So I'm looking in my cabinet right now, because I'm walking around while I'm talking to you. And I used to buy, I think it was Campbell's Vegetarian Baked Beans. That's not a plug, by the way, for anybody who's listening. And I looked on the ingredients, and it was just awful. You know, there were things like canola oil and soybean oil and all sorts of that sort of thing. I'm holding in my hand a can of the Whole Foods brand of organic baked beans. Tastes the same, looks the same, but it's much healthier. So there are ways to make substitutions. And I also found, and we sort of made a pact here in my house, I also found that if certain things were more expensive, when we went to the non-GMO or the organic brands, we would simply be a little bit more careful and maybe eat a little bit less. And I find that my eating habits have really changed in terms of not overeating. I'm more cognizant of my portions. My meals are a lot healthier, not just in terms of the ingredients, but also how much I'm eating.
That sounds like a wise choice.
Well, it's a win-win.
Yeah. Now, we're very close to our break. Would you like to share ways for people to find you on Facebook and, I guess, GMO Free Connecticut and any important groups that they might need to locate?
First, let me give you the address for Activate Connecticut. It's the group that I'm most active with right now. That is www.facebook.com/ActivateCTNow, and that will take you to our Facebook page.
Okay.
Okay. There is also GMO Free Connecticut. There's GMO Free USA. And just about any state that's got a labeling effort going will have a page on Facebook, so it's worth checking out the availability of a page from whatever state you're interested in.
All right, then. And are there any important people that they should know about?
You know what? The most important people that they should know about, this is going to sound really corny, but it's themselves. Each of us, I think, needs to take a very individual, active stance on this and take that first step, whether it's to go and buy different products or to come out in a march or to get involved and contact legislators and say, I demand labeling in my state because I demand good, decent, healthy food. We're really all in it together. And if you go to any of these sites and start a conversation with somebody online, you'll get hooked into literally 1 million people who have something to offer.
That's wonderful advice, since it's really about getting involved, no matter how small you start, just making the awareness of your shopping to begin with, and then start to read up on some of these actions that are happening with Monsanto, with the organic seeds, and really with all the chemical companies and whatnot, just to be more aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have about a minute till break, so I'll give the contact information, and if you have a question for Debra, you can connect with us after the break. So add Awakened Radio to Skype or call 334-649-7204 after the break. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned.
'Cause we're awakened, you won't catch us sleeping through the fight in life. We're all eyes open, showing our inside and light so bright. We are awakened, come and join us.
Welcome to Awakened Radio Network. We cover the airwaves and cover the world with messages that inspire, inform, and motivate you, the listeners. I invite you to visit our website at awakenedradio.net and check out the Awakened store, where you will find stones and crystals, healing kits, smudge kits, Native American style dream catchers, gemstone jewelry, hair feathers, books, tools that will help you bring about the changes in your life that you are desiring to experience. Visit us at awakenedradio.net/Awaken Store. Be sure and read all the information on the store page, because we're prone to having a lot of different kinds of sales. Every month there's something new to say thank you for supporting the Awakened Radio Network. The Awakened Radio Store at awakenedradio.net is your one-stop shopping center for your metaphysical needs. Thank you so much for taking part and supporting the Awakened Radio Network. All the hosts really do appreciate you being part of creating this wonderful foundation for change that is reaching the world. Thank you. Peace.
Welcome. You are now tuned in to Your Unfolding Senses on Awakened Radio. I'm your host, Ragozzine. This show is all about opening to and listening to your full intuitive capabilities. I offer tips and techniques such as meditation, dream work, and more for relaxing and connecting to your intuition. I'm on the air Thursday at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. This show is brought to you by intuitionbyrob.net, helping you to connect to your own inner wisdom. Please enjoy the show and invite your friends. And we're back, and let's talk about some films that people can watch, Debra, that will help them to be more aware of what's going on with their food.
Great, I'd be happy to share some.
I have these posted on the forum, so you can go to awakenradio.net and click on the forum, and if you got here via the webpage, they're on there as well. But let's hear from Debra.
Okay, the first thing, and again, as last time, I apologize. I keep, giving you online references, but it's such a great tool. If you go to YouTube, you can find a film called The World According to Monsanto, and there is a full version of that available. That's the very first movie that I watched that really introduced me to this whole subject, and it will disgust you, it will aggravate you, it will anger you, and I really encourage everybody to watch that. There are a couple of other films. There's Genetic Roulette, there is Seeds of Destruction, and there is Seeds of Death. And all of those are movies that some of us have available that we have been showing around the community. If you go to any of the GMO-free sites, particularly GMO-free Connecticut, you might type in and let somebody know that you'd like to arrange a showing for one of those movies in your community. And we will do our best to get somebody out there. We've shown the movies in libraries, at Comstock Ferry, the place that I mentioned before. We've shown it at community centers in the community. So it's really worth trying to get even a small group of people together. We will come to you. We will show the movies. We'll do a workshop. We'll have an answer, a question and answer period following the movies. We'll share printed material. And it's really a great learning experience.
Now, this is in Connecticut, of course.
Right. I would imagine, though, that the really active groups across the country, though, have the same materials pretty much available to them.
Sure. Just that you're talking about Connecticut, and if someone's listening and they don't know, you're in Connecticut. You're not going to New York, or would you go to New York?
I might not go to New York, but people from GMO-free Connecticut who live in the southern part of our state might.
There you go.
And, if it
was
an extra good day, I might be willing to make the trip, too.
And you might be able to connect them with people in that area.
Yes. Yeah. But I've learned so much about networking through this whole experience. Certainly starting with Occupy, but branching out into working in the GMO-free community. I'm absolutely amazed at how my circle of friends, whether or not we've met personally or not, and mentors and partners and peers has just absolutely blossomed, because each little connection leads to another, to another, to another, and it's an amazing community. Really intelligent, caring, committed, dedicated, wonderful people. I can't say enough about it.
And I'm sure you learned a lot about yourself and your capabilities, too.
Yeah, I certainly did. I learned that I can do a lot more things than I ever would have thought of. 3 years ago, if you had told me I was going to be doing a radio interview with you, I would have said, no way.
I would have said no way, too.
That's funny. If anybody had told me that I would be doing community outreach in terms of those movie showings that I mentioned, or giving lectures, or for heaven's sake, organizing marches. Activate Connecticut, the organizer of the march last May and this coming Saturday, consists of three of us. It's me, it's Rebecca Burton, and Shannon Watson. And we are simply three women who felt very, very passionate about putting all of this together, and we just did it. And that's one of the things that I'm learning about myself. I don't have to rely on other people to do things that are pretty much outside of my comfort zone, because once you do it, it becomes a lot more comfortable.
And that brings up, what if your family or your friends won't listen, won't support you, and just do it, I guess. But did you run into that?
Not so much. I'm very lucky that the people closest to me in my personal life are very supportive. But there are also a lot of people that I've tried to talk to about these issues, not just Monsanto and GMOs, but certainly the TPP as well, who aren't interested, who don't want to be bothered. And so my attitude is, I've done my best. I've tried to introduce it. I'm trying to do some education. If people aren't ready to hear it, or if they simply aren't interested, I've done what I could to try to bring it up, and then it's time to move on to the next person. Can I tell you a story about today?
Absolutely.
That was just such a hoot. My old computer is really on its way out, so I ordered a laptop, and I knew that it would be arriving sometime today. Excuse me. And sure enough, the FedEx guy came up, and he was on my front porch, and he saw my March Against Monsanto sign for the event coming up this coming Saturday. I have it on my front porch, hoping I'll get somebody's attention. And he asked me what it was about, and he really didn't have much familiarity at all with either what GMOs are or Monsanto. And so I asked him if he had a minute, and he said yes. And I went to my car, and I pulled out the written information I carry with me all the time, just for this sort of thing. And I gave it to him, and he said, "Thank you so much. I am going to read this." He said, "Maybe I'll see you Saturday." So the people who don't want to listen, that's okay. They don't have to, because there are a lot of other people out there who will. And those are the people I just concentrate on.
That was a great story. Hopefully he'll be there.
Well, I did the same thing at Costco yesterday. I went up to the counter and I wanted to order a smoothie. And I asked them what the ingredients were, and it turned out there was all sorts of sugar and stuff, and I wouldn't buy it. And the young woman behind the counter said, "Well, why don't you like it?" And I mentioned GMOs, and she didn't know what it was either. And once again, I traipsed out to my car, and I brought the information in, and I gave it to her. And she really seemed appreciative. And I think that people really do appreciate new information and being treated like intelligent folks who can make decisions, rather than just having everything decided for them. So that's our job. What can I tell you?
I run into people, my family included, that don't know what GMO is.
Right.
And part of that is they're not supposed to know.
We're not supposed to know?
Yeah. I guess the Monsanto would be happy if nobody knew.
Oh, I get you. I get you from that standpoint. Absolutely. Hence the secrecy of the TPP. The American people are not supposed to know what is in that agreement. The way that is going to work, if I could hop on over to that for a minute.
Yes.
There is a clause, if you will, in the TPP agreement that says that a corporation from any country doing business in another country can sue that other country for policies that will have a negative effect on their future profits. So think about that for a second. If I'm in country A and I want to sell uninspected, low quality, unhealthy, dangerous food to the United States, and the United States has GMO labeling laws and laws that require point of origin information, I, as the original company, can say, you know what, those high standards are really going to make people not buy the products that I want to sell in your country, and it's going to have a bad effect on my future profits, so you can't do that anymore. In essence, what the TPP is going to do is bring everything down to the lowest common denominator, whether it be food labeling, labor laws, banking regulation. It's a really scary thing. And of course, the reason I'm most interested in it is because of the food issue, but the overall issue should be frightening to everybody.
Yes, I think we have a question from our station manager. I'm just a little confused about what she wants.
I always have questions. That is my nature. The document that you just read from, do you have a place that people can go download it as a PDF or a text or HTML file and actually read what's in that?
I wasn't reading from anything. Tell me what you were referring to.
Well, where did you just get that information, that a country of origin? Yes.
Okay. www.exposethetpp is a wonderful, great place to start.
Is that .com or org?
I think it's .com.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, switch to .org. Sorry.
Well, it's just I personally like to be able to backtrack it to the original source.
And I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
So many times we'll read reports or newspaper articles or Facebook posts about some really absurd things. And you have to be careful about not just passing any old thing on. You really need to check your sources. You really need to know what you're talking about. Expose the TPP is a wonderful, wonderful first step.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, there was just a UN report that came out in September that was really talking about how we need to make changes. It was kind of anti-TPP that I have also posted in the forum. It says we need to really have a shift from conventional to more sustainable regenerative production. And that came out in the end of September. Have you heard about that?
I'm not sure I know what you're referring to. Are you talking about the move to get back to traditional cultivation and whatnot?
I think it talks a little bit about that, but it was really kind of speaking more against the TPP and saying the U.S. has to look at changing their food and improve the productivity of small-scale farmers.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that regardless of what the source is. It's an uphill battle, but that's certainly the goal for most of us who are working on this. everything is large scale. Everything is large, multinational corporations. Everything is mega millions being poured into corporate interests. So we've got a long way to go.
And I believe that's at IATP.org, and that just came out in September.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not sure who they are. Well, it's the UN, but I'm not sure which group within that was talking about that, but I was just looking for
well, you've given me something
research
else
that
to
was
look
coming
up
out recently. So it's interesting to see all these different groups with all these different ideas.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people out there who are really interested.
Now, coming up on Saturday, we have the March Against Monsanto, and at least here in Connecticut, I was looking at carpools being managed, so if you don't have a car, you can get there, and is there a source of information for that? I guess you would go to the Connecticut March Against
Right,
Monsanto.
and if anybody is interested in that carpool idea or the, getting together with other folks for a shuttle or whatnot, please let us know ASAP, because the response for that was really minimal. There didn't seem to be a high demand for any of the shuttle ideas that we had. Carpooling is always recommended, though. Parking in Hartford on Saturdays is free. One of the other things that we did post on our page, though, is that Saturday is also the day of the Hartford Marathon. Fortunately, that should be over. That should be really winding down somewhere between 1:30 and 2 o'clock, and we're hoping that a lot of the traffic and closed streets will be already out of the way by then.
Maybe it'll rain again.
I don't care if it rains again. The rain is the least of our problems. Monsanto is our real problem.
So let's go back to Monsanto and talk about what we can do on a personal level besides having your own garden and your own awareness for shopping. I think it's also looking at the chemicals that we use, because we're looking at these commercials, like the Roundup commercials, and people are whistling and spraying stuff like they're cowboys or something and smiling as they're spraying all around their house on these commercials. And it just seems like people are being desensitized to what's in those chemicals.
I am so glad that you mentioned that. Glyphosate is the main ingredient in the herbicides that are being sprayed. Glyphosate is a poison. And when we use them, and when we use them indiscriminately, we're just throwing it into the ground, and it's not going to give anything healthy back to us. And if anything, it's going to kill the ground altogether. So eventually it's not going to be able to offer anything. That whole thing about us being stewards of the land, I really feel that way. I really, really believe in that mission that we all need to share.
So that really means having an awareness that there are alternatives, even if you just use vinegar.
Right. Or, you go out there and you pull up a couple of weeds. It's good exercise.
It's good exercise, and then you can go and have some carrots.
Absolutely.
And juice your own vegetables and really start to look at how you're feeding yourself like you've done. And then start to look at some of the CSA programs that I was talking about earlier. I guess last time, the community-supported agriculture.
Right.
And really, that's, I think, a really good way to go, because now you're supporting local foods. And I think there's a big push for that as well.
Well, we've got a lot of wonderful farmers out there in all of our small communities, and anything we can do to support them is, the good just comes back to us.
Now, is there any additional reading that people might do? Any good books that we can direct them to?
Well, you asked me this the last time we talked, and I admitted to you then that I have been doing very little reading. Most of my work has been online and networking. That's pretty much still the case for me. But if anybody out there who was listening to this has any ideas, please, call them in, write them in, email them in, and we'll share it. I'm embarrassed to tell you that I'm not more of a reader than I am.
That's okay. It's just some people
Thank
are on the computer, so I'm looking for alternatives for them to find information because they're not computer literate.
Right.
So I'm really looking for, well, I guess the movies are a good way to go, and if they can remember those, then that would be a way for them to find what they need.
Right. The movies are an excellent way. And, go to the library, ask the research person where to get started, and I'm sure there are some wonderful, wonderful sources there.
And last time we talked about how various countries, South Korea, Japan, China, were burning our shipments of wheat. Have you heard anything else about any shipments, or are you aware of how they're reacting to our foods?
What I'm aware of is that the general population in a lot of countries around the globe are truly saying no and are taking to the streets and saying we don't want it here. Something was going on in Mexico with the corn. There are South American countries who are really putting up a fight. Keep in mind, though, that corporate money is going to try to find its way in any population or in any country, so that wherever we have a grassroots effort either to get GMOs out or to keep them out if they're not already in, those efforts are going to have to be ongoing because money really seeps in. And again, I think that's our biggest battle.
So, what changes would you really like to see here in Connecticut and around the country as fast as possible? What are those, the top 5, top 2? Okay.
Well, in the immediate future, I would like to see GMO ingredients in foods, in our food stores, labeled right away so that people don't have to do what can be an exhaustive search. Food shopping is time-consuming enough without having to go in and read labels and figure out does it have them or doesn't it have them. So having the labels on our food products is number one. Number two, and some people say this is a pipe dream, but if you're going to dream, you might as well dream big. I'd really like to see GMOs banned altogether. I think they're dangerous. I think they are being offered to us by sociopathic corporate folks who really don't care what they're selling us as long as we're buying. And it's only by getting rid of them that we're really going to ensure that our food supply is safe. And now I'm also reading reports and hearing reports about how GMOs are actually entering the vaccine market. I haven't done a lot of research on that yet, just because I'm still on overload with the original issue, but someone asked me if I was planning to get the flu shot, and my answer was I'm not planning on getting it until I do more research to find out what GMO ingredients may or may not be in the company that is being offered to me wherever it is that I happen to go for the flu shot. There's a growing anti-vaccine movement, and it's all tied to this issue.
I did read a report that I saved on Facebook somewhere that a doctor had written up about whether or not you should get a flu shot, and I don't remember where that was, but her basic idea was, well, if you're healthy and you're young and maintain a good exercise regimen, you probably don't need it, but I'm not sure who that was. I'd have to go find it.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular one. And that's a big deal. That's a really big decision, particularly that parents have to make for their young children.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden, having to decide whether to risk, the possible dangers of a vaccine or the possible dangers of not vaccinating their children and having them contract some really awful things. I can't imagine being in that position as a parent.
Well, that's another topic for another show, I think.
I think it would be a great one.
Yes. So we have 5 minutes till break, till the end of the show, I mean.
Okay.
So you can share your links again and any important information that people need to know for Saturday.
Okay, this Saturday, 2 o'clock, Bushnell Park Band Shell, Hartford, Connecticut. Come with your signs, or we will provide sign-making material for you.
And everywhere, too.
Yes, yes. We will provide you with chants. We will provide you with information about how to keep it family-friendly and safe and legal. This Saturday, we will be joining people around the world, and how great could that possibly feel? I mean, just to think that we're really part of a global community is so empowering. Please, if you're in the Hartford area, follow up a week from Saturday. Join us. Then the details will be posted soon. Join us for a protest against the TPP and Fast Track in Hartford, across the street from John Larson's office.
And let people know what that is again.
What we are going to do is try to get John Larson to say that he will not vote for authorizing Fast Track. He will not take part in granting President Obama the ability to push forward with parts of the TPP agreement without going through Congress first.
Well, I meant what the TPP is about.
Briefly. The TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which will bind an agreement between the United States and quite a number of Pacific Rim countries that a lot of us believe are really going to drag down the standards that we have for food safety and labor practices and banking regulation to an all-time low. The site to go to for information about that is www.exposethetpp.com.
And people can look up GMO free and their state and find.
Yes. You know, I keep saying GMO Free Connecticut because that's the group that I'm most familiar with. But there are wonderful groups across the country.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Deborah. And good luck on Saturday, and good luck on the TPP and all the future work that you're doing. We need people like you.
Well, thank you. We need people like, all of us working together. I appreciate the chance to talk about it with you on the air. Hopefully we'll see you Saturday?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. I'm glad about that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Deborah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Now, that was Debra Cohen, and you can find information about her in the forum, and you can find it on my website, intuitionbyrob.net, as well. And from there, you can link to the forum page, so it's easy to find. You can find my show page, and you can find my Facebook and Twitter links, and you can find links to the Awakened Radio store. And in the store this week, we're having a holiday special, 35% off at checkout, no minimum or max. And I'm not sure what the code is. I guess it's holiday, so you can use that, and then you get the 35% off at checkout. Now, thanks for listening tonight. If you have an important message that you'd like to share, you can contact us, and we'd be glad to talk about it, especially as it relates to the world globally. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be talking to you next week, same time, same channel, and have a great week.
'Cause we're awakened. You won't catch us sleeping through the fight in life. We're all eyes open, showing our inside and light so bright. We are awakened. Come and join our love, it's so right. If you could feel what we feel now, you'd be a leader filled with might. 'Cause we're awakened. You won't catch us sleeping through the fight in life. We're all eyes open, showing our inside and light so bright. We are awakened.